child. This educational concept is based upon the proven 5 laws of learning. As learning law number 1 states, the pupil must be on a level of curriculum where he can perform. For example, all 12-year-olds don't wear the same size clothing, and all 12-year-olds aren't ready for the same grade level of curriculum. In conventional textbooks, little attention is given to vocabulary control or to pre-adolescent neurological development, both of which are critical to the child's ability to learn, nor is adequate attention given to the individual. The average 12-year-old may have a mental maturity anywhere from age 9 to age 16 and yet be perfectly normal. The child's reading vocabulary may range anywhere from the 3rd to 12th grade level. Chronological age only tells you when a child was born. Ability, not age, must determine the academic performance level and the curriculum assignment. Just as a doctor diagnoses a patient's physical needs before prescribing treatment, so each student's academic needs are diagnosed before curriculum can be prescribed. Each child is placed in the School of Tomorrow curriculum according to need and ability, not according to chronological age. In a conventional classroom, the student generally receives 1 textbook per subject for an entire year. In contrast, School of Tomorrow takes the concept of a textbook and divides it into 12 self-instructional units called PACES. PACES include informative text and interactive activities. Each PACE is a bite-sized, achievable learning objective that's usually completed within 2 to 3 weeks. If a student is emerging from a conventional grading system where students are moved through at the same speed, he may have gaps in his learning experience. When the child enters a learning center using the School of Tomorrow curriculum, he's given PACES to cover those concepts missed. When he has mastered this material, he then begins his prescribed level of studies. Learning law number 2 states, the pupil must set reasonable goals that he can achieve in a prescribed period of time. In the School of Tomorrow program, individual achievement is not an accident. It's a planned objective. Emphasis on individual goal setting is a unique feature of the School of Tomorrow program. Each morning, the student can look at his academic calendar and see where he is and where he is going. He can visualize his progress. He makes note of the goals he set for himself the day before and begins his work. Goals are checked daily by his teacher to ensure academic achievement. As this procedure is repeated day after day, goal setting can become the student's habit for life.
Study habits have really improved since I've been coming here and using the School of Tomorrow curriculum. When I was in public school, I never did my homework, and now I do it, and I like to do it. School is fun for me.
In a traditional classroom setting, I wouldn't feel as free asking questions because there's a lot of peer pressure on you and you're afraid of messing up. But in this kind of setting, it's a lot easier to ask a question of a teacher.
The one thing I like best about the School of Tomorrow curriculum is being able to work on my own level and being on a different level than everybody else.
They start out where they are and they progress at their own rate, so the slow student is not left behind and the fast student can excel.
In the School of Tomorrow program, the responsibility for learning is placed on the student rather than on the teacher. This allows the student to work at his or her own pace or level and call the teacher to them as needed.
The 3rd law of learning states, the pupil must be controlled and motivated to assimilate, use, or experience the material. By design, an individualized learning center has a unique system of built-in controls. Each student is assigned a personal workstation called an office. Teachers are called supervisors and function in a supervisory and tutorial capacity, moving from child to child, continually inspiring achievement. The supervisor can work with the individual student's capabilities regardless of age, intellect, or academic performance level. To receive assistance, students simply raise a flag. Staff are there to help students on a one-on-one basis. Periodically, a student goes to a scoring station where he checks or scores his answers. He doesn't wait for the supervisor to score his work. He scores his own daily exercises and thereby receives immediate feedback. He then returns to his office to study the material and to correct his wrong answers before returning to the scoring station to rescore. Because the program frees the supervisor to work with students individually, there is no need for a child to ask embarrassing questions in front of his peers. Learning Law number 4 states, the pupil's learning must be measurable. In the School of Tomorrow curriculum, every student masters each concept before he advances. Mastery-based education prevents learning gaps and provides a solid foundation. Both the printed PACE curriculum and interactive multimedia software contain text, learning activities, checkups, a self-test, and a final PACE test. These help guide the student throughout the learning process. When a student completes a PACE, he reviews the PACE. He then takes the self-test or pre-test, which is designed to determine if he is ready for the final PACE test. If the student has mastered the material, he will take the final PACE test the following day, not when the supervisor or class is ready, but when he is ready. What happens if a student fails a test in a conventional school system? The class moves on, so he moves on. The only thing that the student learned is how to fail.
I remember taking tests in school and not scoring 100%. I got some wrong answers, and then the teacher would hand the test papers back, and I never knew what the right answer was. So I would go on through life not knowing what I got wrong or how I was wrong in my thinking or my approach, because when I answered the question to the best of my ability, I put down what I considered to be a correct response. But because the teacher never went back over that, I never learned that segment, so there are gaps in my education to this day. And the thing that I like about the School of Tomorrow curriculum is that it addresses the gaps in the educational experiences that we all have, because all of us have gaps, but School of Tomorrow plugs them in and gives a firm, solid foundation to build upon, and I really like that.
In the School of Tomorrow program, if the student scores below the required percentage for mastery, there's a safety net. He receives a new PACE and repeats that unit of work until he masters it. Only then does he move on to the next PACE. For skill subjects, computerized drill and practice programs are available. The computer reinforces the information so that the child achieves the highest level of mastery possible. Learning Law number 5 states, the pupil's learning must be rewarded. People thrive on achievement, and children are no exception. Upon receiving a passing score on the final PACE test, the student receives a star to be placed on his progress chart, and he also receives a congratulations slip. He then goes on to the next PACE in sequence. Through consistent measurable achievement, the child earns privileges and rewards. Privileges are incentives that build self-esteem and self-confidence. Coupled with the supervisor's sincere love and inspiration, the pupil is placed in a system of controls and is inspired and motivated towards success.
I like the individualized approach this program takes because as the students, we're better prepared for college.
Every year I've taken the California Achievement Test and I've done very well in it. I've also taken a test called the ASVAB, which is a military test, and I also did very, very well in that.
The difference that I've seen in my children and the way that they've been able to get their goals done, it really makes them proud of themselves and the work that they've accomplished.
All I know is that this program works. I've watched children come from conventional schools